Welcome to the Forces Sports Show, your weekly roundup of the best action and biggest stories from across the services. Coming up in the next half hour. Mud, sweat and some tears. The titles are up for grabs at the Inter-Services Cross Country. Le Crunch. Old rivalries are renewed as the British and French armies clash in Aldershot. Dissington swoop on the RAF. The airmen are brought down to earth in the Challenge Cup. We start with the Inter-Services Cross Country Championships. The RAF's men and the Army's women took the team titles at RAF Halton. But there was also plenty of individual pride at stake. Kyle Dixon reports.
It's one of the biggest cross-country events on the military calendar. Men, women and juniors from the RAF, the Army and the Navy battle it out across 4 races to be crowned Inter-Services champions.
Come on, every position counts.
First up were the juniors, and it was a 3rd successive victory at this event for the RAF's Will Gardner. This year is actually his last as a junior, and he moved up in style, seeing off the challenge from a number of Army runners who secured the team title.
It's tough. It's always tough around here, but just go as hard as you can and just try and get away early. Big Boys League next year, yeah. So, got 4 months in the Falklands this year, so train hard over there and come back for the cross country.
For the veterans race, it was a similar story. A stunning run from the RAF's Paul Vernon took first place, but it was the Army who again took the team title. The RAF's lack of depth coming back to haunt them. The women's event was a 2-horse race, but it was 2 Army runners who ran away with it. Danny Hodgkinson and Lauren Hall have had a competitive rivalry throughout the Army events, with Danny coming out on top in the Army Championships just last month. This time it was Lauren's day to remember. She developed a lead coming out of the woods and held on to be crowned 2019 Inter-Services champion.
I knew coming into the course that it was on my side, so I love the fields, I love the hills and I love the mud, so when we went into the trees I just felt really good, so I just pushed on a bit.
She was better than me today, but I think she's showed better form than me on the country. I've been doing more indoor track stuff, so yeah, Lauren was a better runner today. And especially through the woods, I've learned she's very bendy and I am very stiff. So there was such a big gap in the woods and then it's hard to get back after that, so yeah, she was a better runner on the day.
In 3rd place, it was a great performance from the Navy's Katie Singe, while the closest RAF runner came in 4th thanks to Lucy Cotman.
Yeah, well at the moment I seem to be doing everything from 1500 to the marathon, so I'm trying to do as much as I can, but yeah, concentrating on marathon at the moment. Did Washington with them in October and got London this year, so but yeah, it's great fun to come and be part of the team and represent for sure.
The final race of the day was the men's race, and this time it was complete dominance from the Royal Air Force. James Bellwood ran to individual victory, but it was his teammates who rounded out a team title for the RAF. Ben Livesey, Michael Callenberg and Sam Mitchell all finished in the top 5 alongside the Army's Ed Knudsen. The nearest Navy runner didn't arrive until Doug Wilkie's 16th place finish.
It was my favourite course actually that we do, so I won the RAF champs here before and this is the first Inter-Service win here, so really pleased. Love the course, love going through the woods up the hill. Had an extra hill this year as well, so that might have helped me, I'm not sure.
So a year to remember for the Army and RAF runners, but the Navy will look to come back with a vengeance at next year's events.
The Army's rugby players have made it 2 wins from 2 in 2019. In their latest build-up match for the Inter-Services, they ran in 4 tries on their way to victory over the French Army at Aldershot. Julian Evans was there.
This annual clash between the British Army and their French counterparts is now a mainstay in the force's calendar. This year's affair was a slow burner, with the opening points recorded following Jamie Miller muscling in for an unconverted try midway through the first half. A few minutes later, the French equalised with something a little more enterprising. Fly half Thomas Piguet spotted space behind the Army line and Lucas Robinho reacted to dot the ball down. Just before the break, the Army hit back. Wingers Devon Tavalu and Nair Lagu combined neatly to put in the evergreen Jack Prasad, the former Fijian international scoring the unconverted try to put his team 10-5 up. It was the visitors who were first onto the scoreboard in the second half as the Army conceded a penalty in prime kicking territory. Scrum half Nicolas Blazy had the simple task of slotting his effort between the uprights, with his team now trailing 10 points to 8. the teams traded penalties that had the Army 16-11 up by the time a rampaging run from Ifeanyi Boladao ended in a converted try for big Frank Bogonosoko. Having entered the fray from the replacements bench, Bogonosoko completed his cameo appearance by setting up the Army's fourth and final try of the match. He burst clear before popping the ball to the supporting Matakaji to dive over for the 30 points to 11 victory.
You know, the French brought the physicality that IS brings, and that's what we need. We need to get up to that level. Okay, some individual players played really, really well. We've got to work on our basics, okay, because our momentum was good, then it dropped off, then it was good again. But actually I wanted a close 60 minutes, and then I was hoping we were going to pull away, and that's what we did.
So you must be delighted then, plenty of positives, and you're going to work on those negatives between now and your next fixture.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, the first 3 times we meet is all about selecting the right squad moving forward, and then we start to get to the harder fixtures with the IS squad, and that's actually when you'll see, you know, all the talent come through, all the hard work. We're doing a lot of volume in training at the moment, you know, so some of the lads are coming in fatigued, but it's not about now, it's about the end of April moving into May.
Forces' interest in the Rugby League Challenge Cup came to an end in the second round. The RAF were the only service to get through their opening match, but the trip to Dissington, a well-established amateur side in Cumbria, proved a step too far. Over the years, Cumbrian pitches have proved fallow pastures for military teams in the Challenge Cup. Dissington have a proud record, despite being among the lowest ranked amateur teams in the Cup. Last year they reached round 3 and they started against the RAF on the front foot. They took an 8th-minute lead, winger Phil Lester driving for the line. The Light Blues gradually got back into the game and forced their way in front. A great steal from Clark McAllister left the home defence exposed, and he was able to free Adam Flintham to make the try to level the game 4-4. Cy Ray making no mistake from the boot, despite kicking into a swirling wind. Dissington pounced on a handling error to grab back possession inside the 10 metres. Ryan Hodson feeding Brian Ritchie, who beat off several challenges to go over, giving Dissington a 10-6 half-time lead. In the second half, the RAF had the wind advantage, but try as they might, they kept coming up against a Dissington defence brick wall. The sin-binning of Clark McAllister for 10 minutes didn't help the Airmen's cause. They simply couldn't find a way through, and Dissington were happy to soak up the pressure, then hit the visitors on the break with their man advantage. There was a hint of a forward pass from Scott George, but when Gavin Martin laid it on a plate for teenager Jack Penrice, there was no way he was going to be stopped. The third Dissington try proving too much for the Airmen to recover from, the home side running out 14-6 winners. So once again, all 3 service teams have fallen short before round 3, but they'll be back again next year to give it their best in the Rugby League Challenge Cup.
It was a really tough game, and it was sort of back and forth, and we were really going at each other, and it was a real physical game. Unfortunately, we didn't come out on top, but it was a good spectacle.
There were some crucial moments. Obviously, you got the try to get you back into the game, and you were right under the cosh on the home team. But they scored just before half-time. That was crucial, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So we'd worked hard into the wind, and they'd sort of thrown everything at us, and we'd come through a bit of adversity, and we managed to get the try, and we felt like we'd come out on top on that half. And they scored right on the half, and obviously that just gave them maybe a little bit of a lift going into the sheds, and then they come out and really come at us in the second half.
The Army women's rugby team gave themselves a big test as they hosted the next generation of England internationals. The Forces side were well beaten by the under-20s at Aldershot. Julian Evans reports.
As England women's senior side put France to the sword in the Six Nations Championship in Doncaster, the next generation of international talent wasted little time in easing past the current Forces champions in Aldershot. Shauna Bennett faced little red resistance as she went in for a converted try after just 6 minutes. England doubled their lead with barely 15 minutes on the clock. Camped close to the Army line, they went through the phases before Loughborough Lightning player Amelia Harper crashed over for the visitors' second converted try. By now, England were beginning to run riot. Worcester Valkyries winger Cara Clark hit the afterburners to whiz her way under the posts, for a third converted score, extending the lead to 21-0. A few minutes later, Bennett was in for her second try. Easing past the Army defence, she crossed to establish a 26-0 advantage at the break. The home side did enjoy plenty of possession. Unfortunately, they couldn't convert time with the ball into points as the women in white held firm. Several phases after an upfield burst from Beth Dainton, it looked as though Lou Dodds was going to score, but England scrambled back to deny the try. The military side were rewarded for their efforts, however, when reservist and Ireland international Sarah Mimner guessed the path of the ball correctly to intercept Green's pass before galloping her way on a lung-busting sprint to the line. But it was England who had the final say. Turnover ball quickly turned into points, courtesy of the fleet-footed Clark. She romped home for her second score that would be converted, rounding off a 33-5 win.
It's always disappointing to lose, but for us it's about the performance. I think the scoreboard is very flattering to England. They put in a really good game, but I think our girls really showed what we can do, and when we put our new systems together, it was positive.
Two former British paratroopers have become the oldest pair ever to row across the Atlantic. Known as the granddads of the Atlantic, Neil Young and Peter Ketley have a combined age of 123. The pair overcame a number of technical problems to complete their 3,000-mile journey to Antigua in 63 days and 40 minutes.
It was absolutely wonderful. I'm glad it's ended. I mean, I can't say the whole thing was enjoyable. The longevity of the whole event was rather difficult to take on, but we've learned so much, and the experience has been something that will stay with us forever. It's just fantastic.
So we've had plenty of technical issues to deal with, but lots of good parts of the rowing as well. We enjoyed seeing the whales that we saw 3 times. Fantastic to see them swimming under the boat, turning over, showing their bellies and all sorts. That was absolutely brilliant.
Another veteran to complete the race was single rower Tim Crockett. He was raising money for military charity Combat Stress. He named his boat Tame the Kraken to symbolise the struggle many experience when dealing with mental health issues and PTSD.
It was tough. Now, you'd probably expect that from a race that calls itself the world's toughest challenge. And I think you prepare yourself, certainly for the physicality. Everyone tells you about the mental challenges. But then when you start combining those together, it strikes you on the size and scope of what a sort of challenge it is. And I think that's what I found. But now I'm starting to process it. You're starting to think back at the good pieces. I'm so glad that I did it.
Now, boxing is at the heart of a new project that's helping women in Iraq who've suffered as a result of conflict. Known as the Boxing Sisters, they've often survived traumatic experiences at the hands of ISIS. Hannah King has the story.
Ruanga Community Camp, due north of Mosul, home to 15,000 displaced people. Inside the camp, young women are learning to box. It's the most recent initiative run by charity The Lotus Flower that helps women and girls affected by conflict and displacement. 3,000 miles away in London, Taban Sharesh, founder of The Lotus Flower, tells me about the new project.
I did have some worries at first. It can be a conservative society, so I didn't know how the community would react to it. Even though Kurds have got female fighters and we're quite upfront with all of that, I did think boxing is not something that's, it's not in the region for women and girls at all. So it's completely going out of the cultural boundaries, but it's been accepted really, really well. So I was surprised by the way that it was received. Some of them have fled up onto the mountains and, have watched loved ones die. They've been forced out of their homes. So I think overnight, all the women have faced some sort of major trauma. With boxing, we've noticed that it's really, really helping them channel that emotion and the energy through the sport.
ام حلمينا كان هيا كي هاجمي مكر ام كاربن بوكسا خالي بدين كلك يا خشبو معلمين دفاع عن نفسها خو بكان ويعني اختك مهاجمه بكان دفاع خو بكان وامشي بوكسا خو هم لي
So fist, please.
To help get boxing sisters properly off the ground, Taban has enlisted the help of former professional boxer Kathy Brown. Kathy heads out to Iraq this spring.
Boxing's got this unexplained, mystical way of releasing emotions and making you feel strong about those emotions, and it's a really weird thing, because when you're releasing it you feel these emotions are okay, it's okay to feel like that, and this is a release for me, and boxing just gives you that strength, that inner strength, to help you get through those times and to set up a really beautiful coping mechanism. So 1, 2 and then pause. When we visit Iraq, we've been handpicked a few women out there who are going to teach to become boxing coaches, so that when we come away they can carry on with the strength of boxing and the strength of teaching to all these girls and anyone who needs to do boxing. So it gives them a livelihood, which I also think is really important for these women.
Taban's charity has helped over 3,500 women so far. She plans to open many more women's centres in other conflict regions across the world.
One of the Army's top winter sports athletes is targeting a third Olympics at Beijing in 2022. Sergeant Amanda Lightfoot is the current British #1 in biathlon, the Nordic sport of cross-country skiing and shooting. Rob Olver caught up with her in Bavaria.
In biathlon, no other British woman beats Sergeant Amanda Lightfoot of the Royal Logistic Corps. For the last 6 seasons, she's competed on the World Cup circuit, she's been to 2 Winter Olympics, and she says she's now aiming for a third.
I'm not ready to stop just yet. I'm still on the top, so I'm looking forward to training again and trying to make a third Olympics.
Biathlon is among the toughest of winter sports, where athletes ski over long distances. On routes, they have to take aim at targets and shoot.
You know, we're crazy when you come out and it's pouring down with rain, or it's snowing like today and the tracks are so slow. It's the pain, you feel the pain, but then it's the euphoria feeling after you've done the race, and you're like, yes, you know, I've just had the best race out there, I had a good shoot. And I think the main thing of biathlon is you're always trying to get the perfect race, and you might get the perfect race maybe once in your career.
At the latest British Biathlon Championships, less than a fifth of the military competitors were women. Britain currently has no women's biathlon team, something Amanda Lightfoot wants changed.
We did have a female team a few years back, and it was fantastic going and competing in the relays, and I'd love to have another female team again, you know, in the next year or 2 years. I reckon we could get a good female team together. There's some females out here who are doing quite good, so hopefully we can, you know, bring them up and create a team again for Great Britain.
If the Royal Logistic Corps Sergeant reaches the Beijing Winter Olympics in 2022, it will be her last. In 3 years, she'll hang up her skis. She'd love to coach future athletes, but it will depend on the demands of a military career. What seems certain is that Amanda Lightfoot's love affair with biathlon won't end.
It's a massive passion for me, this sport. It's crazy. It's literally got me by the heart. Yeah.
And that's it for this week. Don't forget you can see all the action as we get it on forces.net and this show and more on YouTube. We'll leave you with more winter sports action from the Royal Navy snowboarders.